It's time to put your health in your own hands. Get ready to learn from today's top health and wellness innovators and thought leaders on Optimal Health Radio. Now, here's your host.
Hi, this is Tammy Patzer, and I'm excited to introduce today's guest, Joy Angevin BALMER. She is an evidence-based energy healer validated by scientific research. BALMER is a former educator for more than 30 years, and she created a very successful homeschool assistance program and worked with students of all ages and in all areas of instruction. She has a deep belief in the power of education, coupled with an understanding that only through connection to the divine can people reach their highest potential. BALMER sought ways to integrate traditional education with holistic healing and the spiritual journey. Then, in 2010, BALMER met Guruji Mahendra Trivedi, founder of the Trivedi Global Incorporated and the Trivedi Effect. There, she experienced profound personal transformation on all levels. She was inspired to join the Trivedi Healers Mastery Program, where under the guidance of Guruji Trivedi, her natural healing gifts blossomed. Inspired, she retired from her homeschooling program in 2014 to become a spiritual, holistic, medicine-based healer. The impact of BALMER's bioenergy healing abilities on overall health, improved quality of life, and increased vitamin D absorption have been validated by the rigor of internationally accepted models of scientific research and published in multiple peer-reviewed scientific journals. Welcome, Joy.
Thank you, Tammy. It's great to be here.
This is really exciting to be talking to you about the holistic healing and the spiritual journey, and of course, the energy known as the Trivedi Effect. Can you tell me more about what that is?
Yeah, the Trivedi Effect is the original term that was given by Guruji Mahendra Trivedi. He's the founder and the discoverer of the Trivedi Effect. What it is that it is the transformation and the potentization of all living and non-living things. Everything is transformed to a higher and better purpose to function at its highest potential. And that's something that I've been trying to search for my whole life, looking for how to work at my highest potential. You always have heard about, humans are only using 1% of their brain. And I was always trying to just go and find the optimal potential. And this energy, the Trivedi Effect, is really all about expanding the optimal potential way beyond what we currently think is possible. And Guruji has been, he's been led by his desire to connect the divine and consciousness. He's been led down the path of science, and that's, it's just right up my alley. That's why I was so attracted to this whole thing, because he has been able to prove so many different things about the Trivedi Effect through science.
Well, that's really interesting. So your background is in education, and so you've spent your entire life helping people learn and with education. So what was it when you met Mr. Trivedi in 2010? What was going on that you met him, and how did you make this decision to become part of the Trivedi Master Healers Program?
It's kind of a long story, but I was living in Fairfield, Iowa. Fairfield, Iowa is the home of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and the Transcendental Meditation movement. And so I was part of that whole thing, and I really felt that meditation was huge for this whole thing that I was looking for, this whole seeking process that I was going through. It was kind of like searching for the divine. I was trying so hard to live my life in a way that I was part of the divine plan. And anyway, it's hard because your whole life, everybody's got different paths and they're doing different things, and just even simple stuff like people who, get so excited because the person at the cash register counted their change out wrong and they got an extra 50 cents. And to me, that was like a part of integrity and honesty that just shouldn't be part of your life story. So that's kind of what the path that I was on. And anyway, Guruji came to Fairfield, Iowa. And at the time I was thinking, no, I don't need any more gurus. I don't need any more masters. I don't need any more healers who think they're so great. Because my experience was that there was always, people seemed great, but then there was always a letdown. But a friend of mine went to listen to him and was so inspired that I decided that I guess I better try it. And so I went to Chicago and went to a retreat, and that was in the November of 2010. And then I had my first energy transmission, and it was a group transmission with, there must have been 300-400 people there. And he gave it one transmission for all of us. And it was just like having a light bulb turned on. It was just an amazing experience. And so there I was. It was kind of a combination of feeling deep inner peace and liveliness all at the same time. And I was excited and I was inspired. And I had this like inner knowledge that this was for me. This was the path that I was needing to go on. This was going to help me become connected to the God of my understanding. This was going to help me to find what I've been kind of seeking all these years. So that was how I came to find Guruji and the Trivedi effect.
So now you had this knowing that this was something that you needed to follow. So that means you've been involved for probably about 8 years now. And yeah. How have you developed your innate abilities? Because the very term innate means that you've already had it. You were born this way. You were born with it within you. So how have these abilities for the energy transmission been developed in your life, and how would people know? Like you said that you had almost an instant knowing. How does it normally happen for most people?
That's a great question. People are all different, as we all know. They have different physiologies and they experience everything a little bit differently, and that's kind of part of the Trivedi effect. For me, I had that kind of aha, wow, this is for me kind of experience. Other people have healing experiences. They have experiences like they had a backache that they just could hardly walk in the morning or something, and they have a transmission and then it's gone just like that, and they never have it again. And so those kinds of experiences are pretty powerful. And it just makes you continue down the path. So over these last 8 years, I've had a lot of different kinds of experiences that I can only say it's because of the Trivedi effect that I've been able to I'd hate to say power through them, but that's sort of how it felt. it just sort of was able to go through life in an easy, effortless way, which was great. And the thing about the innate a part of this is that the more transmissions you have, you kind of, Gurj uses the word harnesses. You develop what's already inside you, but it develops in a way that you're able to access the natural energy that's in nature and within you. You're able to access the life force found in nature. So, that's kind of what's been going on for the last 8 years, just this sort of strengthening of my innate nature. The whole Trivedi effect, it just keeps developing and deepening your connection with the God of your understanding.
I think that's what happens. I was just going to say, I think that's really an important part of it, is that you're developing that connection to the God of your understanding, and that connection helps you, to just kind of live life in a calmer way or something like that. It doesn't mean that you won't still have issues or struggles in your life, but it just seems like, in my experience, it seems like I just feel like I have this protection, that I don't need to really worry that whatever's going on is all going to be okay and work out for my highest and best good. Do you think a lot of people have that perception?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it strengthens over time. It just gets stronger and stronger. There's a lot of byproducts. That's really silly to say byproducts, but there's a lot of things that just happen naturally. Like the Trivedi effect is actually a process. It's not an event. It sounded to me like, I had this aha experience, but really it's a process that happens over time, that whole process of transformation. And so some things just happen naturally when you transform, when you go to higher states of consciousness. And one of them is healing. People have natural, spontaneous healings. Another thing that for me has been really strong is I've grown in faith, just trusting and faith. That's so powerful now for the God of my understanding and for things in life. Like, I had this trip. I was driving my car across the country from Florida to Seattle, Washington. And my car kind of broke down. My water pump broke. And so, here it was 95 degrees, and you have to have air conditioning. You can't really drive across the country. And there was this inner, just knowing this is okay. This is going to be okay. And sure enough, right after that check engine light and all that stuff came on my car, there was a rest stop. And I was able to pull right over and call the road service. And it took me to a Toyota dealer that was able to fix my car. And it was just kind of one of those interesting things where you didn't have to get a lot of stress, because there was this strong feeling of faith in your divine, in the God of your understanding. Anyway, that was kind of an interesting story.
I think that is because I have driven across the country, not to Seattle, but to Oregon, and it is a 3,000-mile trip, depending on where you start in Florida. It's at least a 3,000 or 3,500-mile trip. So believe me, that's a long way to go, and I actually did it by myself, so I did have to have a lot of faith. So what do you think are some of the biggest misunderstandings or misconceptions about what this energy is, what the Trivedi effect is?
The limitations to the Trivedi effect are really the limitations that you have in your own mind. Those are the biggest misconceptions. People just think, oh, it can't be true. Oh, it must be a trick. Oh, it's just woo-woo. I'm not even going to pay attention to that. And those are the things that hold you back. Those are the things that are the biggest misconceptions. But I always think, like, if you think about it, there's hurricanes. I mean, gosh, we just see every single hurricane season, the devastation in Florida and Texas. There's tornadoes. There's tsunamis that come in and just take out cultures. I mean, there's so much power in nature. There's just so much power in nature. And those are destructive things that I just mentioned, but the divine can do anything. So why do we think that the Trivedi effect is just woo-woo? When Gurdjieff he's done more than 4,000 scientific experiments, and they've validated so many different aspects of science and the Trivedi effect. So it's just kind of our own limitations that stop us from moving and learning and growing in the direction of what God wants us to do, what our life purpose is. We just put up all kinds of blocks.
Yeah, the limiting beliefs that we have. But I mean, more and more, I mean, over the last, 20 years or so, people have been talking more and more about energy. And of course, I know there's a lot of different things, modalities, I guess, so that people have tried to learn and everything. And I know Gurdjieff, he says it's not about the modality of how all of this is done. It's that thought intention. And tell me more about the science that you've participated in, because that is one thing that the Trivedi effect, I know that Gurdjieff is very much, like you said, 4,000 experiments in health and in agriculture and in different things. What have you participated in?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to work with Gurdjieff in 2 different science. Well, actually 3, because last night we did another one. It was really exciting, where we were here. I mean, I was here in the Seattle area, and we blessed 5 minerals and 5 different vitamins, and then ginseng. And we also blessed different mediums and human cells. And so the testing is going to show the effect of our use of the Trivedi effect on these different things. But the ones that I have already done, we don't have the results of that particular one yet. So, you can't really talk about it too much. But the one
it takes time to
yeah.
run to about, they have to write it up, they have to test it, I understand that.
It takes a lot of time. I have 12 published papers so far, which is pretty exciting. And 10 of them are on herba mineral formula that was created that we blessed. And I was working with a group of 7 healers together totally. But the results were really impressive. 140% increase in overall immunity and a 70% decrease in inflammation. So, I mean, that just is pretty amazing when you're thinking about the human body and how so many diseases come in and just take away your immunity, and inflammation is just rampant in the physiology. And, so if you can come in and you can do a blessing on someone and reduce their inflammation, it's pretty powerful. The benefits that the previous 2 science experiments have shown is that it improves blood health and improves liver, kidney, and heart function. and it helps with fighting infectious diseases. I mean, that's the inflammation and the immunity that was proven in those science projects. So it's pretty exciting to have science behind you to validate this, because again, it's hard for people to believe something can, even though there's so much power in nature, it's still hard for people to believe because they're not used to thinking like that. They're not used to thinking.
Yes, you're right. People, I mean, it's very interesting because we're taught, to have faith and to believe in God, in the God of our understanding. And I think that's the very interesting part about the Trivedi effect is obviously it is not anything to do with religion at all, because you could have any belief system, and of course because it is energy, and the connection to the source of life force, it has nothing to do with any doctrine at all. It is
that's
pure connection.
That's the hard thing about talking about the whole Trivedi effect, because you use the word God or faith and people automatically jump to religion. And it's not that at all. It's just connecting a person to their God of their understanding, to the life source, to the divine. So it's really interesting how that works.
Yeah, well, I think that part of the reason why I'm excited about our interview is because, people do need to be educated and to start thinking about this, because obviously we, look around. My son, when he was 4 years old, I asked him if he believed in God. And he looked at me with this look, and he goes, of course, just look around. That was his answer. So and I thought, if a 4-year-old understands way more than an adult, because it is obvious, that there's, a life force, and that we're all connected to one another and to plants and animals and inanimate objects, because energy changes energy. They've proven that also, in physics and in bigger sciences, that existing changes things in the energy force. So that's very interesting. So if somebody wants to find out more about you and the Trivedi effect and how you help with people and work with people, how can they do that?
Well, I'll give you my contact. My website is joyblessings.com. And
joyblessings.com.
Right. And my email is joy@joyblessings.com.
So joyblessings.com, and email is joy@joyblessings.com. Yeah, I love the fact that your name just fits. it just fits.
I like that too, because, one of the, I keep using the word byproduct. I don't like using that, but is this happiness, this joy. And so I feel like it's really a blessing that I get to use that name.
Yes,
anyway.
And it's your name, and, it's like, obviously when you were born, you were given that name because you brought joy into the lives of your family. I mean, I'm pretty darn sure that's why they gave you that name. And then, of course, your name, you have to live up to it, because when you have a name that has that kind of power behind the meaning, it seems like, you have to rise up to be, become joy, to help people to experience that. And that's a really cool thing. So joyblessings.com, joy@joyblessings.com. Before I let you go, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
I wanted to tell everybody about my dog, Chops.
Okay.
Chops is a little Chihuahua, and he's almost 12. at this point. But, he had been coughing and wheezing for a long time, and he just kept getting worse and worse. And he's actually my husband's dog, and so we decided that we would start giving him Trivedi Effect blessings in January. So that wasn't that long ago. Before we, we took him to a lot of different vets, for this coughing. One said, oh, he's got allergies, and that seemed to make sense. Another one said, oh, he's got this thing that dogs get called reverse sneezing. And we thought, oh, okay, because he seems real healthy, except that he has this coughing and this wheezing. And another one said, oh, no, this is the result of having too many vaccines when he was young, because they give little dogs the same potion or the same quantity of vaccines as they give big dogs. So anyway, we were thinking all these different things, but finally he was diagnosed with trachea collapse, and that's when his breathing tube, his windpipe, which is made up of little like C-shaped cartilage rings, they start to collapse, and then the little small dogs, it's fatal. And according to veterinary medicine, there's no healing. There's no way to help this. We can have an operation, that's not great, because it happens to dogs and cats as they get older. Anyway, we started blessing Chops, and both my husband and I are part of the healing program, and so we were both blessing him once a day. So he was getting 2 blessings. And after the first month, we had him checked again, and he improved 10%, and we were like so excited. And after the second month, we decided, we're going to get even some more Trivedi healers on this project. So we had a total of 10 Trivedi healers giving him blessings. And after the second month, his improvement was about 40%. And it was pretty exciting. We're thinking, wow, this is so great. Because, of course, it's your dog, and you just love him so much. And anyway, after the third month, the vet said that his trachea, the collapse had improved, and he was like flabbergasted. Like, how could this be? This isn't supposed to be happening. Had improved. So there's just, he's like a 90% improvement overall, and the collapse was less than 20%. And he was able to, little Chops, he can walk on the walks, and he doesn't cough, and he doesn't wheeze anymore. And so It's pretty impressive. It was a pretty impressive story. And we were, because it's your own little baby. You just love them so much. Everybody feels that way about their dogs, I think. Anyway, I just wanted to share that story because it's such a sweet story.
That really is. And again, it's that, you're sending energy for the healing. And of course, you can do the energy anywhere in the world. It isn't like you have to be near a person or an animal or a plant or a thing in order for it to work. So that is a great story, and it's a story, it just is so hopeful. It gives you hope that there is something out there that is very powerful, and that the connection to the source is very powerful. And so I really appreciate that for you sharing that story, because it really is a demonstration. And I think one of the things about that also is, and Gurji has said this, he says, the results may not happen instantaneously, but they do happen over time. And so I think you mentioned it early in the interview about the process of transformation, right, and how that works.
Yeah. Well, and like for the this little guy, it just started to turn around to collapse, and so the cartilage started to grow a little bit. It was an amazing, really inspiring story for us.
Yeah, that really is a phenomenal example of the thought intention and using the Trivedi effect energy for something that, of course, the vet said would be impossible to do. I think that's one of the cool things, is how the reality is nothing really is impossible.
I know, it's so true. That's it. It's a new science. It's a new paradigm with unlimited scope.
Yes. And it's interesting because my mother used to always say, with God, all things are possible. That, I'm sure that's a Bible verse somewhere. But, that was my background. But I think that's interesting because when you are connected to the divine life force energy, think about it. Everything is possible. So
everything is possible.
So Joy, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to tell me about the Trivedi effect and your experience and everything. That's wonderful. And everyone, remember, it's joyblessings.com or joy@joyblessings.com. You can go to the website, check it out. You can send her an email and make a connection. So thank you so much, Joy. I really appreciate you coming today.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
This is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to today's top health and wellness innovators and thought leaders on Optimal Health Radio. To get more solid health and wellness information, visit optimalhealthradio.com.